Welcome everyone, I'm Luther, your host for Psychic Glimpse. My guest today is David. We will be discussing what distracts us and being consistent. Hi David, thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to talk to you about these two issues that we all face on a daily basis.
My pleasure, Luther. I'm always happy to talk about these two topics. It's something that I've struggled with myself in the past, but I've learned so much over the years. I'm really excited to share my experience with you.
That's great. So, let's start with distractions. Why is this such a problem for most people?
Well, for one thing, it can take us off track and prevent us from focusing on our work. When we're distracted, it takes time to get back into the flow of things. And even if we're able to get back on track quickly, it can still disrupt our thought process and make it harder to produce high-quality work. We're living in a more distracted world than ever before. We have our phones, our computers, social media, and all sorts of other things vying for our attention. It's hard to focus on anything when we're constantly bombarded with notifications and stimuli.
That's definitely true. I think most people can relate to the experience of trying to work on something and then getting sidetracked by a notification on their phone or a social media post. This can also lead to procrastination. When we are faced with a difficult task or a task that we don't really want to do, it's easy to just put it off. But the more we procrastinate, the harder the task becomes, and less likely that we will complete it.
Exactly. Another reason why it's such a problem is that they're often very rewarding. When we check our phone or look at social media, we're getting a quick hit of dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that makes us feel good. This makes it really hard to resist temptations, even when we know we should be focusing on something else. It can also lead to stress and anxiety. When we're constantly interrupted, it can be difficult to feel like we're making progress. And this can lead to feelings of overwhelm and stress.
So, it's clear that distractions are harmful to our productivity and our ability to achieve our goals. But what are some things we can do to deal with it?
There are a couple of things. First, it's important to know what your distractions and triggers are. The things that are most likely to pull you off track. Once you know what they are, you can start to develop strategies for dealing with them.
Can you give us some examples?
Definitely. For example, if you know that you're easily distracted by your phone, you can try turning it off or putting it in another room when you need to focus. If you're interrupted by social media, you can try using a blocker to block those sites from your computer. Another important thing is to create a distraction-free environment. This means finding a place where you can work without being interrupted. If you don't have a dedicated workspace, try to find a quiet corner in your home or go to a library or coffee shop.
That makes a lot of sense. It's hard to focus if you're constantly being disturbed.
Exactly. Finally, it's important to take breaks. If you try to focus on something for too long, you're more likely to lose focus. Get up and move around every 20 to 30 minutes to clear your head.
Those are all great tips. Let's move on and talk about consistency. Why is it so important to be consistent?
It's important for a few reasons. First, it helps you to build momentum. When you're consistent, you're more likely to stick with something and achieve your goals.
That's definitely true. It's hard to make progress on something if you're not persistent.
Exactly. Secondly, consistency helps you to create habits. Habits are automatic behaviors that we do without thinking. It can help us to develop good habits so that we can move forward.
So, how can people train themselves to be more consistent?
There are a few things. First, it's important to set realistic goals. Don't try to do too much too soon. Start with small, achievable goals and gradually work your way up.
I agree. It's better to start small, which will prevent you from giving up because it's too hard.
That's so true. It's important to create a schedule and stick to it as much as possible. This will help you to stay on track and avoid getting sidetracked. Finally, it's important to track your progress. This will help you to see how far you've come and stay motivated.
Those are all excellent tips, David. Thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your insights on dealing with distractions and being consistent.
You're welcome, Luther.
I have just one last question for you.
Sure, go ahead and ask me anything.
What is the biggest challenge you faced in dealing with distractions and being consistent?
I think my biggest challenge is the constant temptation to procrastinate. It's so easy to put off tasks that we don't want to do, especially when we have other things that are more appealing.
I fully agree with you. Well, David, thank you so much for your time and insight. I think our listeners have learned a lot about dealing with distractions and staying focused. For more information on the Psychic Glimpse Soul Sync Challenge, subscribe to this channel and watch my other videos. This is Luther, your host for Psychic Glimpse, signing off. Thank you everyone for listening. Just before I go, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel. Stay well.